I want to point out a couple of things that took me a really long time to try to kind of understand this. And the first was Bruce Lipton's work and how your thoughts can cause an inflammatory response within the cell. And I've brought him on this show. We've chatted about that. And that was very much a like, wait, this is so counterintuitive to what we're taught in a traditional healthcare system. Our thoughts are in creating cellular inflammation. And then the second one you and I have talked about before, which is The Body Keeps the Score. And that book, I think, changed so many lives, but it really did an incredible job of explaining how our tissues hold on to these traumas. And so when I think about traumatic work, I almost think we have to bypass the brain and go straight to the body, because the brain hasn't been able to figure it out.
Amen. Right. I think that there's this way that our brain can come in and start to reorganize it with us, but our body has to be a part of it. It remembers.
Yeah.
It remembers so much.
It remembers
There's
everything.
Such a wisdom available there, right?
And I know that there's a lot right now where they are talking about they don't believe talk therapy works anymore. So, and coming from a clinical background, have you noticed what's the difference from your shoes talking to somebody about their problem as opposed to letting the body talk about what's going on?
And maybe for clarification, never worked in the clinical space, but definitely still as professional counselor, right? And which is just a much more what we would call traditional, Western talk therapy, right?
Yeah.
I sort of quote unquote traditional, because what is more traditional, if we go back in time, were some of these other practices that we're starting to get into now. Our breath, psychedelics, energy medicine. Those are all very old and ancient and much more traditional than what we, fit into the box of our talk therapies now. But so sort of to mirror the same way that I was starting to notice that there was this gap in my own somatic world. I had not even connected with my body. I felt like there was this missing gap with clients that, of course, and you'll notice this, I will pause and be like, oh yeah, well, what's happening there?
You say that all the time.
And that's like trying to sort of reorganize us back to like what our body has to say. And so there are subtle ways that we can do that. But then there's, much deeper and direct ways, if we have the capacity to do that, like psychedelics, like breath work, that put us in direct path with some of what's there, the material of our lives, the material of our traumas, what lives in our body and wants to be acknowledged, set free, break apart. Catalyzed.
So with breath work, what I have found as I've shared my journey with you and some of the ahas that I've had as my body has spoken, is that there are a lot of different types of breath work. And it seems to be kind of confusing for people.
It sure is.
So can you talk? Can you talk a little bit? Like I would call the type of work the breath work that I've been doing with you, I just call it therapeutic breath work, as opposed to I in the morning, sometimes I'll pop on Othership app, like that app, or Wim Hof. I did Wim Hof for a while. Like those, even though those are both breath, they're vastly different. Are they
totally
not?
Different. They're totally different. And I think it's so important to say, and what can I say about this that is helpful for the listeners? I think that there's breath exercises and then there's breath experiences. When you share with me, and both are so valuable. I too, I dip into something much more experiential that requires much more support. And then I also in the morning am like, how can I fill these lungs? How can I increase the volume of my lungs so that I have the health benefits and the clarity and some of the instantaneous stuff that breath can give us, right? So there is a purpose and a place for both, and there is a separation between them. So with this style of breath work, and I think again in trying to create something that was unique and authentic and honest to me, I did want to incorporate some of the values that I was coming in with and being able to hold the human experience. So some of those skills as in professional counseling, if stuff comes up, I can process that with someone. We can talk about that together. There's a little bit more containment than some of these circumstances where just like, we're opening up the field and there's so much coming through, and that can be really destabilizing for people. And so,
Agreed.
so what we're doing in these moments where we're going towards this active breathing is we're actually beginning to stress the body out in a sense, right? So the breath isn't about
Yes.
resetting our nervous system, although we'll probably get there on the flip side of it. We're actually activating, right? We're probably getting into the sympathetic state. So we're breathing so big and so large, we're kind of opening our body up. And that's sort of me being a little bit artistic in those words, but we're lessening or softening our default mode network. So the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes of breathing can often feel like a little bit of a struggle. So continuously breathing with a lot of energy. And that's where the brain is like, oh, I'm not quite used to this. Are we sure we're supposed to be doing this? So there could be this little internal battle that's going on. And then once we get past that part, we drop into the body or the soul or the spirit or the energy field. There can be so many layers to that. So then, a breathwork session can last anywhere from, 10 to 50 minutes, depending on where someone is at and what we're working through. And this is where, we are participating. There's sort of 4 layers that I sort of see within this type of breathwork therapy. We're going towards surrender. We're creating the conditions to let surrender come through in a way that feels supportive and safe. That we are deepening. The second is going through experience. That we are connected through our emotional experience, our embodied experience. There have been very few moments in most people's lives where it's actually been okay, or even not okay, but to go towards emotion, right? That these cries these wails are holy. Like whatever happens here, I can be in the experience of it. Right?
Yep.
And then the third part of it is being able to be a bit exploratory about it. What is this? Can I connect with myself more deeply because of it? A lot of time we're accessing somewhat of an altered state of consciousness. We have access to our intuition, to insight, to vision, to more sensation, to trust, to truth. All of these qualities that are just refining, who we are. And then the fourth stage is reintegration. And this is often the place that people just kind of rush by. With psychedelic work, we kind of hang out here a little bit longer, breath work, not so much. But we've taken all of this medicine and we kind of are like, oh, I feel kind of born again. Wait, what happened? And if we've done our job, we're like pulling our medicine bag with us and bringing that out into our life. What did I find there? What was that like for me? And how can I bring that into, what is being asked of me?
My interpretation of what you just said is it's very much like fasting. It's because you're going into a hypoxic state, right? When you're breathing, when you're doing the breath work, like you and I even talked about this last night, like there was a little bit of concern for me of like, oh, I don't know if I'm really wanting my legs to be tingly today or my hands to be tingly. And yet my educated brain knows that that's a hypoxic state that I have put myself in. And it's in the absence that we often find those answers, just like fasting. When you go into a fasted state, so many people, I always say, people go there because they're like, I want to lose weight. And I always say, join us for losing weight. And then I hope you stay for transformation.
I see, yeah.
Because the longer you stay with these fasting principles, the more you uncover about yourself, because it's in the absence of food that you can hear yourself. What I heard, what you just said, was it's in the absence of oxygen, in some sense, that default network comes down and you start to, is that accurate? You could disagree.
No. I think you're right. And like, I guess where I come in, I'm like, yeah. And there's like, I think it's absence of control.
Oh, yes. Well, they're both absence of control.
Yeah.
Okay, wait.
Yes.
This is good. So
I love you.
So when there's absence of control, That's where you find the answers.
That is the deep dive into mystery. Yeah. Right. And that's.
But why is that so hard? Why is that so hard to embrace?
Yeah. I mean, for each of us, there's a different reason, right? But I think we're conditioned to hold on to control. We also see it everywhere. We're also highly individualistic, and we're like, I gotta keep myself safe. And then if we actually have been harmed, we're like, oh no, it's not safe to lose control, right? So it's like a thoughtfulness even in, why we want to hold on. There's probably a very good reason why letting go of control feels so hard. So we have to honor that. And at the same time, again, if the conditions are right and the people are right and those forces can align, can we practice what it would be like to let go just a little bit more? Can we dance in the mystery of unknown? Because the known hasn't been working out for us too well, right?
No, it hasn't.